I'm delighted to have here with us today Professor Aleks Subic, who is the Vice-Chancellor and Chief Executive of Aston University. Aston is a key player in our University and Research Leadership Forum, which Aleks chairs. Aleks, it's a pleasure to have you here today with us.
Hi, Roberto. A pleasure to be part of this interview discussion.
We are launching this new initiative in the GFCC focused on place-based, place-making innovation, award that you coined. And you just authored a paper about University 4.0, reimagining higher education for University 4.0, a unified agenda for funding, ranking, and regional development. Could you tell us more about that? What is the University 4.0?
I'll be very pleased to share with you the concept and as well as the progress to date through our discussion. We've seen throughout the centuries evolution of universities as critical civic organizations in all of the societies worldwide. We started with the first generation of universities that focused primarily on education, going back to Bologna, and in the Middle Ages. Then we've progressed towards the second generation, which, primarily focused on research and the new discovery, the science, the scientific creation and discovery of new knowledge. You've seen Oxford, you've seen other similar creations worldwide. As we progress to the third generation, the concept of triple helix approach emerged, where universities, government and private sector started increasingly focusing on research translation, commercialization, and creating economic value. We've now progressed throughout the decades towards a new model that's emerging, where a number of universities worldwide are aligned with the next generation, which is the fourth generation, or the way I call it, University 4.0, because it's embedded within the Industry 4.0, the fourth industrial revolution. The fourth industrial revolution, is driven in so many ways by University 4.0, which now is the concept where universities have evolved towards a quadruple helix model of partnerships and innovation, which now involves not only universities, government, and private sector, but also society. That is the key, where universities are not anymore just transmitting knowledge or driving economic value, but they have become the catalysts of socio-economic transformation. And in the cities and region, they are driving open innovation, and through open innovation, indeed, placemaking.
Aleks, we know that there's a diversity of universities in the world. So at the same time, they're making the case for University 4.0. How do you see the landscape, this diverse landscape with maybe different types of universities existing?
I think when we look at this diverse higher education ecosystem across the world, we are actually seeing various stages of evolution, depending where they are. And actually, you probably can find examples of all these four generations that I talked about. What is really becoming quite apparent is that the fourth generation universities, or University 4.0, are increasingly attracting attention, are increasingly being seen as those drivers of change, as those civic organizations that are increasingly seen by partners, governments, local governments, regional governments, cities, businesses, the whole ecosystem, community organization, societies they serve, as the key drivers and catalysts of that placemaking in their regions and cities. So that is a powerful differentiator. It is a role that an increasing number of universities are looking to play. So my belief is that following alignment with these new fourth generation universities will only grow. Why? Because it is the right thing to do. Because we have reached a point where societies that we serve, the governments that oversee us, govern us, and even fund us, and businesses and industry that benefit from our research, innovation, and skills development, see that as the best way to get value from universities in their local regions and cities.
You just mentioned the importance of serving communities and having that in mind. In your paper, you make the case for, I would say, a bundle that would include different dimensions, management dimensions and governance dimensions to realize the University 4.0, including funding, including ranking, including engagement with communities. Could you elaborate on that and explain a bit about that?
I will. For this movement, or for this next stage of evolution, to really be successful and lasting, to actually stand the test of time and achieve the impact it needs to achieve, we need to increase the scale and impact of such universities. To do that, we can't rely on traditional funding models of government, of higher education sectors. We can't rely on traditional ways of rewarding, acknowledging, ranking universities. And we can't rely on the traditional university ways of engaging with industry, business, and society. So it requires a comprehensive model whereby the government funding policies and funding framework must reward the outcomes that society needs and values. I've written a paper a while ago that I've titled "The Fallacy of Funding A, but Hoping for B." Our funding must be aligned with the outcomes we value and the outcomes we desire. I'll give you examples. Traditionally, funding models and recognition models and value models are overly focused on research rankings that are primarily, to a large extent, relying on academics voting for academics, academic institutions voting for academic institutions, esteem based on citations, esteem based on the level and value of research income secured from government, and so on. If we are pivoting to a model that actually aligns funding also with the outcomes and the impact the university is achieving in its societal and economic landscape, then that funding framework does not need to be fully replaced. It needs to be balanced. And that balance must include supporting employability, supporting and funding outcomes relating to social mobility, supporting and incentivizing, outcomes relating to research and innovation outcomes that are improving productivity, that are improving revenue and job generation in industry and business, that are driving regeneration of cities and regions in the post-industrial era, that are driving digital inclusion and bringing society along into the higher value-add economy, and so on. These outcomes can be measured, and these outcomes must be incentivized and recognized, in par with the excellence and quality in research and academic reputation. So that is that comprehensive model. Equally, the global university rankings that have commenced with their kind of evolutionary approach where they are starting to change. That change must be bolder. It can't be in fractions of percentages. They must actually recognize, measure, and reward through global rankings outcomes of international significance and excellence in achieving these type of outcomes that are measurable in society and economy. That balance is essential because the reward systems drive behavior. The reward systems drive how universities align themselves and what they prioritize. Equally, as you know, Roberto, in an organization, especially large, complex organizations like universities, our reward systems, our promotion schemes must be also aligned. Because if we only reward through promotion and appointments individual effort that's based on citation levels, journal publications, and how much money you achieve from national grants, and we don't reward innovation and translation outcomes, we don't reward startup success, scale-up success, productivity gains achieved through research with industry and business, impact in society through a myriad of strategic projects, including social enterprise, that stem from the relevance and excellence of academic endeavor. If we don't balance it, then internally organizations are not aligned either. So that is why it is a comprehensive system approach, where our reward systems, reputational and ranking systems must be aligned with the outcomes that matter, outcomes that society, business, industry, government expect of universities.
I was once an industrial engineer, I was trained as an industrial engineer, and there was one famous author who was really talking about planning, and one of his main taglines was, "Tell me how you measure me, and I'll tell you how I will behave." So that's exactly what you're saying. But how do we do that in practice, Aleks? I imagine it has a connection, for instance, with a 4.0 idea of leveraging technology. Could you explain a bit about that?
So how do we progress here? So one of the key aspects in our plan, in our strategy, is to create the coalition of the willing. The forward-thinking universities across the globe that we are putting together around the Global Federation of Competitiveness Councils, a forum that's ever expanding, that's bringing some of the most innovative, progressive, leading universities around the globe, from US, from UK, from Ireland, from South America, from Europe. That coalition of the willing is shaping this movement. We're also seeing in parallel Elsevier, Technological University Eindhoven, and a whole range of universities in Europe coming together as well, including some of the universities in Southeast Asia. Together, we are formulating this framework. Together, we have a better chance to influence government policy, to influence ranking policies, to help together transform the current framework with concrete solutions, concrete ideas, concrete measures that we're developing together. As you mentioned, underpinning to all this, for Universities 4.0, within the Industry 4.0 era, digitalization is critical. Digitalization is at the heart of Industry 4.0 and University 4.0. We all agree by now that in the future, there will be no job, no profession, no area of endeavor that won't require digital literacy and digital skills, that won't be touched in one way or another by artificial intelligence and AI. We need to embed that not only with universities, but also in how we engage, upskill, reskill the community, society, and business. I am very proud to announce today to you for the first time the launch that we have done here at Aston University last week that will redefine universities forever, and that's Aston Power Skills. Aston Power Skills that are aligned also with the core skills identified by the World Economic Forum for 2030 and beyond. Digital and AI, environmental sustainability, innovation and entrepreneurship, and inclusive leadership. At Aston University, every student in every program, in every discipline and profession will gain those attributes, will gain those skills, will gain those learning outcomes as of September this year. That's how we start. They're not anymore an extracurricular activity. These are fundamental core skills that we at Aston University call power skills, because they are empowering our students to succeed in work and life, to succeed in the future of work, because many jobs of the future have not even been created yet.
Let me turn to Aston. You mentioned our coalition, the coalition that we're building under your leadership. In November 2024, we were in Birmingham. We were at Aston with you for a pioneer leadership dialogue on Universities 4.0, with people from 15 different nations joining us for that conversation. A key theme was really the innovation precinct, the Birmingham Innovation Precinct. Could you tell to our audience here, what is that, and what's the role that Aston is playing in the context of the Innovation Precinct.
I was delighted, Roberto, to chair that forum in Birmingham last year, and really was delighted to host also so many friends of Global Federation of Competitiveness Council, including many presidents, vice presidents, and leaders of universities across the world, but also former ministers, current ministers, and as you know, many of the leaders of industry and business as well. It was an amazing dialogue. I called it a leadership dialogue. And at the center of that discussion, I've presented the Birmingham Innovation Precinct as a case in point, as a case study of what the role of University 4.0 is and what placemaking through place-based innovation actually looks like, what good looks like. So the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years, I, as the Vice-Chancellor and Chief Executive, with key partners across Birmingham, including Birmingham City Council, West Midlands Combined Authority, local government, including our strategic industry partners like Brantwood SciTech, that is a leading science and technology park developed by in UK. Many businesses, also colleagues from other universities. We have been driving the concept of Birmingham Innovation Precinct. We have embedded that framework and development within our future city master plan. We have acquired strategic facilities across that vast landscape geography that is in the city center of Birmingham and spreads into the largest, potentially largest innovation precinct you've seen worldwide, because it captures a large portion of the city center of Birmingham, as well as the surrounding suburbs and areas. And it has a comprehensive approach. It's using open, collaborative innovation across the broad stakeholder base that is grounded in tech innovation and digital innovation to drive socio-economic transformation. We're bringing hundreds of tech innovation companies in those facilities on campus and around campus. As of this morning, I've announced that our campus at Aston University, including our precinct catchment, will be by 2028 net zero emission. We have secured almost £40 million grant from government, involving also business and industry, to completely transform our campus into the first area in this region that is net zero emission by 2028. And a green energy center in the heart of the precinct that will also serve as a living lab for students, staff, and communities. So, as we've talked before, comprehensive, strategic, place-based innovation approach that addresses skills, in particular digital skills for a digital economy, that addresses sustainability, that addresses health equity and access to healthcare, because we're also launching an Aston integrated healthcare hub, which will provide health services, comprehensive health services to all our students and staff, as well as schools in communities around the region that are the most deprived areas in UK. So when we look at this, we're looking at innovation as a catalyst for socio-economic transformation that's driving environmental sustainability, that's driving innovation that creates better productivity and more innovative products and services in industry and business and creates jobs, that drives digital inclusion to acquisition of digital skills in the region, that drives access to healthcare and health equity, and that drives open innovation on an ongoing basis, revitalizing, regenerating Birmingham as a city that once was the powerhouse of the first industrial revolution and that lost its way after the first industrial revolution somewhat, and that we are now regenerating and finding a place in the fourth industrial revolution driven by the University 4.0.
Aleks, you just mentioned various things that are changing in Birmingham. And for colleagues who are watching us, please stay tuned, because we will soon launch a case study on the Birmingham Innovation Precinct. We are developing that with Aston and Aleks' team. But when I was there, I think the first place where I went was the new administration building. And I realized this is pretty new. And I thought, this is Aleks. So, and he just mentions various things that you were doing, new initiatives, that includes physical infrastructure in addition to social infrastructure, connecting with various players. So I saw your mark on the ground when the first place where I actually visited in Birmingham. And you have a university, you and your team, Aston is one of the first universities that I have ever heard in the world that has a chief commercial officer, right? So your leadership, if we think about transformational leadership, that requires leaders. So could you, just to close this, tell us a bit about you, Aleks? How did you come from being a professor, engineering professor, to becoming a university staker and shaper?
That's a hard question, Roberto. I'll try to answer that briefly. I think I can at my age now, I can probably say it has been a career long journey and personal development of working at the interface between academia, business and industry, and community and society. My projects, my personal research, my focus on education that leads to jobs, that leads to long-term success in careers that is relevant, where industry and business are embedded in education. My approach to partnering with industry and business over 3 decades have shaped me to be someone who's deeply committed to innovation, as someone who has emerged through that trajectory, but someone who's always focused on impact. And I always use this byline that I've also used in our report from our forum last year, and I've used in my paper as well. I've always felt that academia must focus on not only what it's good at, but only what it's good for. So my focus has always been on thinking and trying to contribute along those lines, not projecting or promoting what we are or what I am good at, but what we are and what I am good for. So the organizations that I have led, or the areas that I have led throughout my life, and now having a privilege to lead Aston University in Birmingham, UK, which is one of the leading civic universities in this country, leading in employability, leading in social mobility, leading in innovation, based on external recognition, is my home. I fit here. It's aligned with my DNA, with the DNA of my organization. As you know, I've co-led, the Prime Minister's, Industry 4.0 task force, the national network of Industry 4.0 labs. I've established centers with, Amazon, with Adobe. I've worked actively with Ford, with Boeing. I led major projects and developments with Boeing. I had a campus on Boeing grounds in Melbourne. I've worked internationally with major global corporations, created with Siemens, a global network of labs that are transforming not only industry, but the university sector in Australia for a digital economy. So all of these experiences, the unique experiences, the successes and failures, the things you try to do to create impact, shape you as an individual, shape you as a human. I have all my career, my professional life, been always led by what impact I can achieve for my students, for my industry and business partners, for community. And that's my North Star. And I'm delighted that at this stage of my career, I have ended up at a university whose North Star aligns with my North Star. And our industry, our 2030 strategy captures that joint journey, aligned journey. So I have been reshaping my teams along that line. You quite rightly pointed out, Roberto, that it is about leadership in order to get to your North Star. But it's also about the teams, the leadership teams you create, where it's almost like that movie Moneyball. They're not a team of stars. They're a team of professionals and leaders that are aligned with strategy, that fit with university purpose and direction, where everyone has a role to play. And as I often say to my team, it's a team sport. Achieving success is a team sport. And you have to have leadership teams within your executive as well as across university or any organization that are aligned with the same purpose and strategy and pulling in the same direction. That's where I have put a lot of effort in. And I'm really delighted that we're moving in the right direction.
We talked a lot about impact. Just to close, Aleks, and impact, you mentioned social mobility. You mentioned leveraging technology. You mentioned economic development on the ground. If you had to give one single recommendation to leaders who are embarking into that journey, university leaders, but maybe others, what would you say? What would you recommend?
If I have to say only one succinct statement, I would say, let the outside in.
With that, we hope you have enjoyed the conversation. Aleks, as always, it was a pleasure to me and always a learning opportunity to be with you. We are proud to have you and Aston in the GFCC. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roberto. Delighted to be here and looking forward to many more ventures together.